Jerilynn Stephens is nominated for 2 Emmys this year, competing with herself in the Outstanding Contemporary Hairstyling for a Variety, Nonfiction, or Reality Program category. I'm Denton Davidson for Gold Derby. Jerilynn, you earned nominations as the hair department head for both HBO's Legendary and NBC's The Voice. How did you hear about both of your Emmy nominations, and how does it feel to get all that Emmy love?
Oh my God, I love the Emmy love. It's just so nice to be recognized for hard work pays off. And how did I find out? I found out online. And because I'm usually the one who lets everybody know because I'm up early and usually on top of it. So I'm the group texter of congratulations.
And these are your 9th and 10th nominations. So you're no stranger to the Emmys. You've been nominated for The Voice 8 times before. How has your career at The Voice evolved over the years? Because you've been there since the first season.
Season 1. Yeah. I just got a notification that we just have our 500th episode coming out. I mean, it's crazy to be a part of a show for 10 years. And who would have thought? So season 1, I was hired just as an additional hairstylist. By season 3, I became the key hairstylist to the department head, Sean Finch. And then season 9, he left and I became department head. And now we're on season 21.
Incredible.
So yeah, it's just been such an amazing ride. That show is well oiled. It's such a fun show to be a part of these contestants' lives. So I'm the department head and hair responsible for everyone that comes through that show except for the coaches. The coaches have their own glam. So yeah, it's just.
And is your team working with the artists even during the blind auditions? Because that's a lot of hair to go through.
It is. And especially in COVID, I mean, things changed a lot for us. So blind auditions have always been kind of come as you are, and we fluff and buff. We shoot 3 shooting days to look like 1 day. So there's a lot of continuity with their hair. And we just, we recently, with COVID, we had to have them take their own like selfies and kind of match what they did. And then whoever's chair they sit in, they just look at the picture and we just try and match it. Back in the day, we used to have somebody actually taking pictures, writing down all the products and tools that we use, but it's changed.
And I imagine things really ramp up for the live shows because that's a lot of pressure to get everyone ready for those performances. So it's no wonder the episode submitted for Emmy consideration was the top 17 live performances. And I have to assume that the live performances are a completely different animal.
Yeah. We're used to on that show really doing a lot of hair for the lives and doing big looks. And so I figured it out after a couple seasons in COVID. This was my third, this was my second season in COVID. So how I figured it out with our legal department in COVID, we only are supposed to get 10 minutes with somebody in our chair. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? So I did a lot of prep work with the hair extensions and a wig. And then what I would do is I found out that I could have 10 minutes per hairstylist. Okay. So this is easier to do with hair, but I would have this vision and inspiration with the contestant beforehand, have it ready. We know what we're doing. I tell whoever's chair they sit in, here's what we're doing. Here's a photo. Here's your inspiration. Go. And then it's like, okay, next chair. Here we're going. You're going to finish this. And so we did it literally through the work of teamwork is really what it was all about. And I think our show turned out amazing.
And I love the transformations that kind of happen each week. The song choice, wardrobe, hair, and makeup really sort of all come together to provide the vibe for each performance. Pia Renee, for me, it was one who stood out because I loved sort of the edgy looks that she had each week. Is there a particular transformation that stood out to you in the most recent season?
Oh, transform. You know who I had the most fun with was Riley.
Okay.
She really made me think outside the box of like how we were going to accomplish this look with limited time and which hairstylist can accomplish this, because we all have our specialties and things like that. So she was the most fun. And then Zanya, she was really surprisingly, she wanted to have a look change, and it was basically just putting extensions in the front, giving her like a sexy bang. That was really fun. And Pia, yeah, her hair was wild for lives. I loved it. Who else can I think of? Oh my gosh, I mean, there was just so many fun contestants that season.
And when we think of hairstyles on The Voice, our minds kind of go straight to the women. But I liked how Cam Anthony, who won season 20, was able to sort of transform his own look each week too, with either braids or the fro with the pick in it. He was really fun to watch this season. And our readers at Gold Derby are always, making predictions on who's going to win The Voice or who's going to be eliminated. Does the department ever gossip backstage about, I think this person's going to win? Or are you guys betting, or do you not talk about that kind of stuff?
Back in the day, we used to talk about that kind of stuff. And what I found is we are never right. What we think is going to happen doesn't happen, and we're always surprised about the outcome. And so I've just really kind of let that go, especially these last couple seasons in COVID, because I can only have 2 people at stage because of the limited amount of people. And so one person actually is on stage who is my, my last looks person is probably the most important person on stage, and for those flyaways and the backlighting. I got off track. I'm really sorry about that. But I try not to predict anymore, because that one person is the only one who's really seeing it until we see it on TV.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll always go home and I'm like, oh my gosh, they sound so good. They look so good.
And I imagine you get pretty close to the artists. Are you sort of numb now to people leaving? Because do you even get to say goodbye, or are they just kind of like, I don't know who gets to say goodbye when someone is eliminated?
Sometimes
Okay.
we get to say goodbye. It depends who's rushing them off somewhere. But I feel like we maintain an Instagram relationship.
Okay. And then one last thing about The Voice. I'm just curious, how big is that team? I mean, what sort of team effort are we talking about here when you have so many artists going through each week?
Well, this season in particular, I had 4 people at the hotel getting them ready.
Okay.
And then as each week, we dwindle down, I would have less people at the hotel. And we always had 2 people at Universal. So one would be like on a floor above, they kind of go through the last look process after they ate lunch and all that. And then we'd have the stage person doing last looks. So that team in particular, I got 8 people on the ballot because we also have a barber, Stacy Morris, and she's incredible. She does all the barbering for the show. So that with her, and then I put Kelly Clarkson's personal Robert Ramos, and we didn't have Gwen that season, so I put Kelly's person on there because I always like to acknowledge our personal hairstylist.
Yeah. And then I'm going to shift a little because you're nominated for 2 Emmys, of course. So I want to talk about Legendary, which is a very different kind of reality competition on HBO Max. Teams made up of predominantly LGBTQ plus members voguing for $100,000. I mean, the hairstyles on here are just really out of the box, very colorful, wigs, weaves, hair dyes. What's your favorite part about working on this series?
Oh my gosh. I have to say, I had no idea what I was in for. I mean, I knew because I watched the first season. First, I accepted the job.
Yeah.
And then I watched the first season. And then in my head, I quit 3 or 4 times. It was so unbelievably creative, think outside the box. I think this season we really killed it. Oh my gosh, I actually colored my hair lavender purple. So, I looked a little more edgier.
Just to fit in.
Just
Were you
a little.
familiar with the ballroom scene before this at all, or did you learn a lot working on the show?
Both. I was familiar, but not that familiar.
Okay.
Like I really familiar. I started educating myself before I even started the season. I started, just really wanting to know about ballroom. And like I said, watched the first season. Some people recommended Paris is Burning.
Yeah.
And so different, of course, Pose. And so I just sort of, I really tried to educate myself. And I feel like, I've always been a huge supporter too. So I don't know. I enjoy that show a lot.
And the episode submitted was Pop Tart, which has the houses competing in a pop art theme. Do you get a heads up on what these themes are, or are you sort of notified
Yes.
when the contestants are notified?
No, I got the whole season in front of me. Of course, top secret. But honestly, what you think you're gonna do for Pop-Tart or any of the episodes, what you think that you may like, oh, I bet you we could do this and use this wig. Cause I pre-stocked my trailer with like 30 wigs and things like that, just to kind of have some, stock to work off from. And honestly, they thought way bigger, way outside the box than I ever was like, oh, well, okay, hold on. All right, let's figure this out,
So how much do you work with the actual teams to come up with the theme of what they want for their style or look?
Okay, so they meet with Johnny Costume and they decide on the look. And Johnny starts designing, the costumes or their performance outfits for each of the houses. And then they come see us the next day. And that's where, and by the way, we had like a group album with each house, with the house mom or dad, parent, and myself and Tanya Green, who's department head makeup. So they would start dropping inspiration photos in. And what I learned very quickly is within like 24 hours, they're dropping different ones in. So you kind of start letting that absorb and start thinking also which direction that they're trying to go. And then also maybe have some ideas yourself that they may not have thought of. So that's kind of how it all started. And then we would meet with them and discuss it and decide what we're doing. And then the next day I would shop, or that night shop, and then we'd prep, and then we'd do the rehearsal, and then we'd shoot it. It was like bam, 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 like 5 days in between each episode.
That's crazy.
Crazy. It's crazy. And we tape live to tape. Okay. There's no like retake. The wig falls off.
Oh, that's interesting to know too. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How much or did you have a favorite look from the season? Because I like, for me, what stood out was that Andy Warhol performance where they were all just different colors. And I also loved the blue hair with the soda can curlers.
Oh my God. Yes, those two, they are dreamy and yummy. And it makes me so happy when I see pictures of all of those colors. And the makeup is phenomenal. I mean, Tanya Green and her team, a phenomenal job with makeup.
And, people do hair and makeup in salons all over the world. So what brought you into this sort of crazy world of show business? What was that break for you that made you say, I want to work on a TV show?
I was in beauty school in Seattle, Washington. I was 25 years old, kind of a late bloomer in deciding what I wanted to do. I was a bartender, really had no direction in life, had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, fine, I'm going to go to beauty school. And so while I was in beauty school, one of my friends started dating a grip. And so he was working on a film that was in Seattle from Los Angeles. And we went and visited the set, and they set me up with the hair and makeup trailer to meet everybody. And everybody was so nice. And they're like, if you want to do this, come to LA. And I was like, oh my gosh. I so instantly knew that was my dream, and I needed to figure out how to do it.
Well, you certainly made a success for yourself. Jerilynn Stephens, we are wishing you luck this year. You have 2 chances to take home that Emmy. I want to encourage our viewers here to head over to goldderby.com, make your predictions, beat the experts, and you can also check out more interviews with top Emmy contenders this season like Jerilynn. Thanks so much for chatting with me today about The Voice and Legendary.
Thank you so much for having me.